Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us today. Our NBC Sports coverage kicks off this weekend, and our 20 race schedule, all of you have that. Joining us today are our booth announce team, Jeff Burton, closest to me, Sam Flood, our executive producer, Steve Letarte next to him, and Rick Allen, our play-by-play broadcaster. We're going to start with some opening remarks from each gentleman, and then we'll open it up to your questions. Let's just start on the end here with Jeff.
Well, first of all, it's great to be back. The enthusiasm from our end is really high. We've spent a lot of time watching the races and watching this year the quality racing on the racetrack, and every week we've just gotten more excited to get back. So to come to Daytona, where we are pretty sure it's going to be an interesting race and a wild race like it always is a great place for us to come back. And I think excitement is the word for us because it's really, really fun to be back at the racetrack.
Well, we wanted to have everyone in here just to celebrate his 50th birthday. So that's the most important part of the day is
he called him out.
Our young man in the booth. So happy birthday to Mr. Burton.
How old are you, Sam?
It just turned.
It's turned quickly. We're fired up to get going. We've got some new toys and some new ideas for this year, which we think will help engage the fans, showcase the sport in a brighter, faster way. We've got this bat cam that's going to fly down the backstretch here that can go up to 100 miles an hour. It goes 0 to 70 in 1.5 seconds. So that camera is going to be something that's never been seen before at a NASCAR track, and we're really excited about it. It's going to be fast, and it's going to showcase this speed, especially with the pack racing we have here. We think it'll be a fabulous change in addition to the telecast. One other
Otto Bolden's carrying that camera, right?
Yes. Okay. Our sprinter, Otto Bolden, will have it. Otto, who's a multiple-time Olympic medal winner and a track analyst for us, joins the group to be the fish out of water, a guy coming into the sport, which I think everyone in this room knows what it's about, but I think there's a lot of America that's scared and doesn't understand the sport. Otto's going to be that fish out of water who's going to experience the sport for the first time and engage in all new ways, and he's going to be part of a race team one weekend. He's the ultimate fan this weekend. You'll see him in a swimming pool. You'll see him driving a motor coach. He's going to do it all this weekend to really get a sense of what it's like to be a NASCAR fan. Eventually he joins a race team. Eventually he's a pit reporter. You name it, he's going to do it and learn the sport and show that love and passion for the sport, and he'll absorb it and give it out to grow the audience. So we're very excited about that, and we're also excited that Mr. Letarte is sitting next to me.
Well, I appreciate what Sam mentions, the new toys to showcase the sport. I'm really looking forward just for the opportunity to get into the booth with these two gentlemen and showcase the sport that I feel has really delivered in the first half of the year. The stages were a big unknown, but I think they've delivered and showed the creativity, both behind the wheel. We've seen battles come into stage finishes, but we've also seen crew chiefs and engineers find ways to manipulate those stages and understand them better than their competitors and put themselves in position to win a race. And that's really what it's all about, is getting to victory lane. And then as well as the races, we have basically a new opportunity this year. We've created the NBC All-Star Pit Crew, and the concept of that is to showcase the men and women in the garage area, not the drivers, not the crew chiefs. They're well documented, they're well covered, but there are so many men and women that make up the fabric of this sport. So we kicked it off last night on NASCAR America, live here from Daytona. Each week we're going to nominate 2 to 4 people, and then in Miami we're going to make a final team of 9 or 10. So we hope to have 60 or 80 great stories through social, on the network, on NASCAR America, of the people in the garage area that I grew up racing with, and the people that really make this happen. When you look through there, you guys know, you come to every race, you see the same faces, and there are so many great stories, whether it's perseverance from a challenge, whether it's just remarkable respect from their peers. Everyone has a story, so we're going to showcase those stories and hopefully show the fans what the men and women in the garage area, who they are and what they do to make the sport great.
And I'm excited just to be sitting next to Steve Letarte, because when they announced that there was going to be stages in races, the biggest smile got on his face, like, okay, there's more strategy that goes into these races now, and there's more moments, and there's more things that are going to happen throughout the race that we can highlight and we can get excited about. And that's exactly what we're here to do. We're here to tell the stories of the participants that are involved in this sport, from the drivers all the way to the guy who drives the hauler all the way out here. We're going to tell those stories, and we're going to make sure to educate everyone about how it takes place, how everything takes place with this sport, because it is It's a massive sport that travels around the country, and we want to touch as many people as we can and get them excited about what we have been passionate about for most of our lives. So that's what we're excited about to get started, and we kick it off in about an hour, maybe less.
Rick, why don't you quickly talk about some of your off-season activities on a motorcycle and what's going on with that?
Well, actually, we're gonna have a show about what I was able to do earlier this year with Kyle Petty. Every year, Kyle Petty puts together a charity ride across America. This year we rode from Portland, Oregon, all the way to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And throughout that process, there were cameras. We had people that were documenting the whole process, that we wanted to tell that story of the campers, how it influences not only the people on the ride, but it influences lives of people that we may never even see, that we're able to give them an opportunity to come to Victory Junction Camp. And this year, I think we raised over $1.3 million for Victory Junction Camp. And that enables kids to live a somewhat normal life that might not have a normal life. And that's going to be documented tonight after the Daytona Throwback, the 2004 Daytona Throwback race. So that's immediately following that. And I was lucky enough to be on that ride. So it's an incredible experience. We hope you enjoy that. It really dives into the stories of the people that are involved with the Kyle Petty Charity Ride.
Okay, let's open it up to questions. We'll start here in front and then get back to you guys. Go ahead.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Really excited for your season to start. What is it that you think will energize the viewers that they're not getting now, that you guys feel like they need in the broadcasts in order to have them watching longer?
I'll start by saying I think Fox did a great job, and really respect the telecast they do and their passion for the sport. I think we've got the opportunity this back half of the season with the race into the playoffs and the drama that goes into that. With the number of winners we have this year, it's going to change the playoff race a great deal. So I think that is the huge advantage we have on our part of the season, and no better place to kick it off than here. But Mr. Burton probably has more thoughts, and you'd rather hear him talk anyhow.
I doubt that, but I do believe that the playoffs are coming, and the pressure is starting to mount. And you know, you have drivers and teams that have had success. You've had drivers and teams that haven't. And we had a conversation a little bit ago about the silly season, how that's kind of gotten kicked off. And there's so many things that are going to start happening because the playoffs are coming. And as much as the teams want to say it's not, as much as the drivers want to say it's not, it is, the pressure's mounting and it's getting higher. And us as fans and viewers, as we see in every sport, the more stressful it is for the competitors, the more fun it is to watch. The more that it's on the line, the more fun there is to watch. And having the opportunity to explain those things, explain the emotions. We've, you know, Steve and I and Kyle and Dale Jarrett, and we've been in those situations and understand those emotions and understand how hard it is when things aren't going well and how great it feels when things are. And having that opportunity to explain it, we believe that the excitement's there. The content on the track is fun to watch. It's exciting to watch, and you know, if people watch it, they're going to come back and watch more. There's enough emotion and enough real competition on the track to have a lot of fans and a lot of excited fans.
And Claire, we enjoy getting together as a group and enjoying races with fans. And we think that enthusiasm comes across in our broadcast. Dave Burns, Chris Devoda, Kyle Petty, Kelly Stavis, Parker Kleggerman, all here with us right now, Marty Snyder. We feel like a very tight-knit family of people that just enjoy coming to the races, and we get together almost like a family and say, all right, we're going to watch this race, and the rest of the country can see and feel that energy and the love that we have for this sport, and we hope they feed off of that, and they enjoy that as well. I think that's one of the best things about our team is that we enjoy being together and just having a good time watching the races.
Gene Fournette from the Times-Union in Jacksonville. I'd like both Steve and Jeff to address this if they might. Obviously, so much sentiment for Dale Jr., so many people wanting him to win this race. Can you envision a scenario on Saturday night where it's down to the last lap and a driver who's going up against him who's already in the playoff, maybe not racing him as hard as somebody who has yet to qualify?
So I think the easiest answer to that is I was on the 24 car in 2001 at Atlanta when Kevin Harvick had that memorable win in the 29. And I can assure you through 3 and 4 and coming down the front stretch, we did everything we could do to win that race. And while the 29 winning was a great story for the sport, at that moment we didn't care. No one on our team cared. Jeff Gordon didn't care. That's what made me fall in love with the sport is while those stories are great and they're fun to write, they organically happen so spectacularly in the sport. It seems like it can't be real. But as a competitor who has worked over 2 decades to win races, I don't care about the stories. I never did. I didn't care who was the most popular winner. It was not an issue for me. My goal was to go out and prepare a car to give my driver the best opportunity to win that race. And I think there is a group of drivers and crew chiefs in that garage area that realize that it would be great if he wins as long as it's not at their expense. And the truth is it's all at their expense. So they don't care. And they're going to race him as hard as anyone. And I think this racing and this type of racing at Daytona has only become more and more aggressive from lap 1 to control the fields. And I think that aggression will be clear Saturday night. And I would be disappointed and shocked if anybody didn't make the same aggressive move to whomever they were racing, whether it's Dale Jr., whether it's a teammate, whether it's perhaps your brother. They're going to race each other for the win. So it'd be great if he could win, but he's going to have to go out and be Dale Jr. and get up front and control this pack and try to win the race. I can assure you no one's going to help him or give him a win.
Yeah, and the very essence of the sport is competition. The very essence of the sport is enjoying taking a win from someone. That's what competition is. And you can live your life in that race car one way. You can't live your life out of that race car the same way. If you do, when they bury you, no one comes to your funeral. But the fact of the matter is, when you're in that race car, you don't give a damn about anybody but you, and especially coming to the line. During the race, you work with each other. You try to help someone, but you're trying to help that person because that helps you. And this is a selfish sport. You have to be selfish. You have to be self-centered. You have to be arrogant. You have to do a lot of things that your mom told you not to do. And that's what happens when you put that helmet on. And anything less than that, those drivers won't be employed very long.
Yeah.
Mike Embry, USA Today. Let me ask you 2 things, Sam. When you're trying to bring in new fans, do you emphasize more things like gadgets like new cameras, et cetera, or do you work on the personalities of the drivers, trying to show more about them, different angles about the drivers? Is there a mix or a balance there, or do you tend to lean one way or the other?
It's a balance. It's an important balance. I think I was talking to the group last night about the Stanley Cup final and how Nashville, which is probably more a NASCAR market, Nashville, than a hockey market, and how they fell in love with the sport of hockey, and how there's a different passion in that building and a different understanding. And by the end of the Stanley Cup finals, a whole new group of fans have been created. And part of it was we did a few things a little bit differently. At the intermissions, Carrie Underwood popped up and did an interview with Liam McHugh and Mike Milbury. That kind of element probably wouldn't have happened a while ago. You look at things differently, you engage fans differently. I think we've got a group that's very welcoming. It's really important that the door is open and people feel like they're welcome into the sport, and some of the code and the words that are part of the garage talk have to be explained, but not dumbing it down. There's a balance that has to happen. And I do think toys help. I think it's nice to have Batcam is going to have a cool look that people are going to say, wow. And if we can get people to watch 1 more minute, 2 more minutes, 3 more minutes, the longer they watch, the more they'll fall in love and get to know these stories. And the sport has this great group of young drivers coming in, and they're winning races now, so how do we expose them? How do we get you to care about those personalities? Because ultimately in any sport, it's star-driven.
And secondly, there's been a lot of talk lately about a certain retiring driver's possible future in TV, and I think you've commented some about that. If that occurs, how do you see him fitting into your broadcast if that should happen down the road?
You want to step off the stage?
Oh. I think it's one of those, if it happens, wonderful. It'll be a nice problem to have and a nice opportunity to have to figure out what we'd do. But he's a special character in the sport. He's got a lot to offer. His passion for the sport is clear. his love for the history of the sport and what it means to him, to his family, and to the people out there is neat. But it's really in his world where he wants to be and what he wants to do once he races his last race at the end of the season.
Don't you feel like you've got an inside track on him with Steve? Like, you guys want him? Can't you guys sort of make it happen in some shape or form?
I don't think people really like Steve.
Just twist his arm, Steve.
I mean, do you guys want him? Would you guys like to find a way to make him work in with it for you? Because you guys have a good thing going right now.
Again, he's a talented guy. If he's available and wants to do it, we'll certainly be open to have that conversation.
What's that?
Are we called? Did you just
In
call us peanut gallery?
my old job, I decided who worked there. In my new job, I have a boss, so I just do as I'm told.
Jerry Jordan, kickingthetires.net, PRN. Sam, curious about the camera, the 100-mile-an-hour camera. Can you explain that a little more in detail, how that's going to work?
It's going to go fast, and it's going to go on a cable from point to point in a straight line down the backstretch. And you can probably see it if you walk outside. You'll see it. We're beginning to play around with it today. And it's going to be fast and fun. And there are two ways you can shoot it. You can shoot it going along with the cars as the cars go with it and past it, or you can shoot it going at the cars, so you'll have a crisscross and pattern, which will really show the speed. So we're going to play and have fun. We got a great director in Mike Wells, and he's going to make sure his toy is used properly. And we'll use it up to 7 races this year. Yeah, 7 races is the plan. Up to.
Bob Hawkers, ESPN. Sam, obviously the back cam's been used in other sports, but did you have to do any convincing with NASCAR about it? And is it being used on the backstretch specifically because of safety reasons?
I think it's a combination of reasons. We think the backstretch is a place that could use a little extra energy, and that's a good place to have it. So that's the primary reason. But I'm not sure the past history would make them as comfortable putting it over the front stretch and the crowd. We're keeping it off the track. We're keeping it a place that we think will best showcase the speed. And ultimately, that's the objective.
And can you say, is it much different than what was in, I know it's a different system.
It's a lot faster. It's a lot faster. Speed sells. So it's all about the speed versus the more traditional.
Kelly Crandall, Racer.com. So 3 years in, the enthusiasm obviously has not dwindled at all. The objective to find new ways to engage the fans is still there. But has this venture coming back in, Sam or anybody, has the idea and the process of coming back into NASCAR, has this been everything you guys thought it would be, and has it been worth it?
Totally. We are totally in love with the sport, in love with the opportunity to grow the sport. There are so many good things and good people that we get to work with. And our job is to expose them to as many people as possible and keep growing it. And we know that the NASCAR grew the most it ever grew during the period from 2001 to 2006 when we were part of the sport. And that's our intent, and that's the work we're going to lean in hard on the rest of this year and throughout this contract, and hopefully long, long past this contract ends, we'll still be partners with NASCAR because we like working with these people, we like what the sport represents, and we think it's an important part of this country and the sports world.
Sam, the last few weeks, unrelated to you, there was some grumbling within the industry and on social media about late start times. How does the network go about, what is your role in setting a start time?
Well, NASCAR sets the start times. It's their decision. We want to try and accumulate the largest possible audience, and start times has something to do with that. So it's a combination of factors, and NASCAR's obviously has the ultimate say on when and where and what time the races start. We do prefer some later start times, which will have more people at home. People using television later in the day, it's just a fact that there are more people available. And so that is part of the reason of the timing that makes some sense.
And my second question, also not specifically related to you, but the first half of the season had did not improve in television ratings. Does that concern you, and how do you attack that?
Well, I think we can control what we can control, and that's putting the best possible product on the air. And that's the job of the guys up here next to me and the group over here to make sure it's entertaining. And we also make sure that we market and get the word out as well as we possibly can that this is must-see TV. And we've got a good history and a good track record at NBC of making events bigger. You know, you go back through, we turned the Kentucky Derby into a national holiday. We took Sunday Night Football from a lesser night to the night of football and the #1 rated show on television. We know how to do this. We just need to work hard, and it's going to take some digging, but we're going to get there because we believe in the sport, we believe in these people, and we believe that it is a great product on television, and we want more people in the stands. We want people to enjoy it and be as passionate about the sport the way they were in '01 when we came in the first time. And we think that's all possible. We wouldn't be sitting here and working as hard as we are and planning as hard as we are if we didn't believe that was going to happen.
Anybody else? One more over here.
Jeff Gluck from jeffgluck.com for Sam. Do you guys plan to do anything different after the races in terms of interviews or anything about how you present post-race?
I think you should stick around and find out because it's at samflood.samflood.com. We've been talking about it, so we got some ideas. But hold on to that thought, and we'll go from there. Tease.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thanks, guys.
You guys.
It'll be available for a few minutes before they head out.
If I could have your attention here in the Media Center, we will start today's Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series pre-race availability for the 59th annual Coke Zero 400 powered by Coca-Cola. And we're joined by Kurt Busch, driver of the number 41 Monster Energy Haas Automation Ford for Stewart Haas Racing and your defending Daytona 500 champion. Have you had a chance to go say hi to the car on your way into the track?
I haven't just yet, but I can't wait. I just got in, and it's so special coming back to Daytona. I can feel it, and it's helping me absorb what we did here in February last time.
Okay, we'll open the floor up for questions. If you have a question for Kurt, please raise your hand. We will get a wireless microphone to you. We'll start with Gene and go to Bob.
Kirk, obviously every driver wants to win this race, but if each driver cannot win the race, is virtually everybody in that garage wanting Dale to win if they themselves can't win?
I think you're onto something there for sure. Everybody wants to win it, and yes, this is could possibly be Dale's last time in a top Monster Energy Series car at Daytona, and it's going to be a good battle. I guarantee he's going to be elbows out, sleeves rolled up, going hard, and he will be the car to beat this weekend.
We'll go next to Bob and then to Caleb.
Bob Pockris, ESPN. What has been the biggest adjustment going to Ford? Has it been kind of knowing either what to do or what not to do as the race weekend kind of unfolds?
I mean, not to get too specific about adjustments to Ford because of the aerodynamic balance or the horsepower torque range. I mean, we've been tweaking little things here and there that what's actually helped us at Ford is that there's so many areas to really go back and cover again. Things that we haven't changed in maybe 18 months or a couple of years, we're looking at in more detail. And so I think that's the biggest thing that's helped us at Ford, and also their technology center that they bring to the racetrack each and every week with a group of engineers running all the numbers throughout the race. They're scanning drivers, and the amount of information that they can get to our pit box as quick as they do is once I saw it happen like the first 3 or 4 weeks, I was blown away. So that's been big on the Ford performance side of it.
Go to Caleb. And then to George.
Caleb, Whistler Speedway Digest. Kurt, can you just assess your season so far and what have you learned most about yourself and the team?
You know, I mean, to start off winning the biggest stock car race in the world and to have the chance to hoist up the Harley J. Earl Trophy, that was a special moment and one of the highlights of my career. And, you know, that isn't, you know, something to rest on, but it's very special. And I would say that a few weeks after that, I think we were slightly hungover, not necessarily literally of of what would happen at night, but it just seemed like a fog because of the excitement, the energy. I get sent on a media tour. Tony Gibson grew up here in the shadows of Daytona International Speedway's grandstands, and all of us were so excited. We're ordering rings, we're ordering flags, and we're taking the Harley J. Earl Trophy around to Ford's headquarters, to Monster's headquarters, to Haas Automation's headquarters. There was a lot going on. And once we settled in and we were learning the balance of our Ford and how the little things were changing here and there, in all honesty, I think we've done great. Half the races so far this year, we have a top 10 finish. Harvick won last week at road course. For us to win as super speedway, it's showing the versatility that Stewart Haas has. And now we have to focus, which is always this time of year, on the mile and a halfs and making sure we're as best prepared for when the playoffs start.
Over here in the, good? Okay. George Diaz over here with the Orlando Sentinel over here in the back. You alluded to this just briefly now, but can you talk, Kurt, from a competitive standpoint, winning the Daytona 500 from the get-go and your team's perspective? Is it a little bit like playing with house money moving forward?
The way that it seems to have unfolded the last few years for us on the 41 car is we're always building up towards that win, running well, top 5 here. A bad day might be 12th, and then we broke through and won it at Pocono last summer, and then it seems like it's a struggle after you win, and yet you gotta get it rebuilt or gotta tweak things to adjust and not get complacent and be ready for the playoffs. So when you win the first race of the year, it changes the game on how you have to adjust and build it back up. And so I feel like with an experienced leader like Tony Gibson, and now with a half a season under our belt with the Ford and everybody at Stewart Haas, Clint Boyer has now found a better rhythm with his crew chief Bugowitz. It all looks like we've got everything with the up arrow around it.
Matt Corson with the RacingExperts.com. Kurt, this is the only scheduled night restrictor plate track. Can you talk about, from a racing standpoint, what sets this race apart from the others?
Well, that's a good observation. I didn't realize it is the night race restrictor plate, and everything runs cooler at night, and so there's more grip. We'll always run more aggressively on the tape for the aerodynamic side, so that the cars are slicker through the air, but yet at night you can trust the grip level of the track a bit more consistent. And I think this time around the cars will have more grip than what they did in February, because February, man, it was slick and there was a lot of accidents, Truck Series, Xfinity Series, and in Monster Energy Cup. So it's been, we'll see how it plays out this time around. Should have more grip with all the cars.
We'll go next to Jerry and then to Reed.
Jerry Jordan, KickingTheTires.net and PRN. 2 questions real quick. Does the Earl World Tour end this week, or does it continue on for the year? And also, do you wish you had that car over there in the museum for this weekend?
Yeah, the Stanley Cup tradition is 100 days after you win the Cup, you get to take it around. And when Earl and I went out on a boat ride on Lake Norman, it was in May. He looked at me, he's like, "Hey man, I'm tired. I want to go hang out with the other trophies in the trophy room." So the World Tour of Earl, when he was hanging out with the crew guys, they didn't do a lot of things on social media with him that should have been done. And so, again, it's that buzz and that energy, and winning Daytona, having that Harley J. Earl trophy, it's very special. And the reason for doing such of a tour with the trophy is the fact that when I called Daytona International Speedway on Monday looking for replicas, they said that there's only 2 that they make per year. And Gene Haas has his in Oxnard, California at the Haas headquarters, and I have mine at my home right now, but I wanted to share it with everybody. And yeah, it's a little disappointing. We don't have our winning car. On Monday afterwards, we're pushing it into the museum and the Motorsports Hall of Fame over there, and that experience of losing a race-winning car is tough to digest. But at the end of the day, it's one of the coolest feelings in the world. It's like, you know what? We'll go build another one. And the car we're racing this weekend finished 6th earlier this year at Talladega, so we'll be all right.
We'll go Reed, Lee, Bob, and Dustin.
Reed Spencer with NASCAR Wire Service. You talked about getting ready for the playoff and concentrating on the mile and a halves. Exactly how do you do that, given the fact that Kentucky's the only mile and a half between now and Chicagoland? Do you lobby to get on the Atlanta tire test in August? Do you do a lot of sim work, that sort of thing?
Well, you're smarter than I am. Heck, I didn't realize Kentucky's the only mile and a half before we get to Chicago. Okay. All right. Well, we tested Kentucky earlier, about a month ago, working with Goodyear on the tires. I know that we have a Chicago test with Goodyear on the tire that they are wanting to bring to that event. And then I believe there's a rule change with the front splitter that they're going to implement once we get to Kentucky. And so that'll change the balance of all the cars at the mile and a halves. And that's where, again, a lot of it's getting into sim work. I was on the simulator before we went out to Sonoma to physically drive the simulator. And then there's the computer simulation models that the engineers use. And I think it's just getting into more detail. It's going further with understanding what it's going to take to be successful at Chicago, at Dover, at Charlotte, at Kansas. You know, Texas is one of the most important races, or it used to be, because of the asphalt surface was very comparable to Homestead. So right now, I think the two most important races coming up are Kentucky and Chicago, if we're gearing up towards a championship run.
Go Lee, then Bob, then Dustin.
Lee Spencer, Motorsport.com. I saw where your lovely bride tweeted something about 4th of July being your favorite holiday. And just curious about, you know, why that is. And I know you have a penchant for fireworks, and that might have something to do with it. But can you, yeah, I know.
Still good.
What about your toes? But anyway, if you could kind of explain why that, you know, resonates with you.
Growing up in Las Vegas, there was always July 4th fireworks shows. The Strip always put on a show, and as a kid, you don't quite digest what July 4th means. And as I got older, you understand it's the independence and the freedom that we obtained as a country, and the pure heat and the hotness and just the summer months. And July 4th is right in the middle of summer break. It just always seemed like a great celebration. And, you know, over the years with military and understanding the independence, the red, white, and blue, it's easy to have your pride bleed through. And with fireworks and lemonade, cold beer, Monster, it's a time to kick back and enjoy the summer months with family. And so I've always tried to coordinate July 4th parties. Last year we threw a huge bash on Lake Norman, rented a floating barge to set all the fireworks off of, and had the Iredell County Sheriff Patrol help keep people away from the firework barge and have all the safety implements put in place. And, you know, we're still hearing about it. And I think everybody in Lake Norman's like, is Kurt throwing his party again this year? And I conned a friend in Vegas to throw a party. So I'm actually headed out west to have a big party at his place in Vegas, July 4th. And it'll be fun just to kick back, relax. It's perfect. It's on a Tuesday. It's kind of like our Saturday as far as how our schedule works on the NASCAR circuit. So it'll be a fun little party on Tuesday.
We'll go Bob, Dustin, Colton, and then Kelly.
Bob Hawkers, ESPN. Mitch told me last week that they still haven't decided yet, Monster hasn't decided yet, whether to sponsor the 41 next year. Are you starting to, you have any worry or concerns about what you'll be doing next year?
I don't have any worries. I know that I deliver for the team. Our performance level is one that shouldn't be in question. I mean, winning the Daytona 500 is special, but performing week in and week out, the deliverables that I bring, sponsorship-wise, that comes into play. And I know that they're working with NASCAR, trying to sort out, Monster Energy is trying to sort out their issues with NASCAR and the entitlement sponsor. So there's a lot of moving parts, but I don't feel any fear whatsoever. I actually feel very confident on the sponsorship that I bring, Ford Performance's involvement with Stuart Haas, and how I've blended in with this team. I feel great.
Go to Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. I just had two quick questions. One is just because there's been some question about your contract status in relation to that. Can you clarify your contract status beyond this year? And second of all, this race seems to become more about track position, where the winner of the last few years has had an average running position in the top 5. You were a little further back in the 500. How has that changed, and what more are you having to do a lot sooner in the race, or to put yourself in position, and how do you want to put yourself in position at certain points in the race?
Okay. For me, the team has the option on my contract, and they just have to notify me by a specific date if they're going to pick that option up. And that's as easy as that. And so I feel like they will, or however the timing works out, I feel very confident in how things will come together. As far as the average running position and where you need to be at Daytona or Talladega to win, I think it's all about the final segments average running position. So wherever the numbers have shown, I think you got to be within the top 6 to have a shot at it.
Colton Wood, Florida Today. After winning the 500 back in February, your first restrictor plate points win, is there a different feeling now having that 500 win entering Daytona, whereas in the previous years you didn't win at Daytona and you were still trying to get that first win at this track? Is there, like, emotion-wise or anything like that that's changed here now with that win?
On the emotion side, yeah, it feels great to have a Daytona 500 win, and the ring and the trophy and the prestige and the value of that win. And how I won the race is something that, you know, you have in your back pocket as far as the knowledge and the understanding of what took place at the end, the draft and the move that I made, or the handling characteristics of the car. But you can't be too complacent, and you always have to find new things and put more tools in your toolbox to be able to have that advantage at the end of the race when it comes to mastering the draft. And so by no means do I think I've mastered it. There are guys that have more tools in their toolbox to try to use, and I need to do a better job too to be able to have more restrictor plate wins.
Kelly?
Kelly Crandall, Racer.com. Piggybacking off that, and you just said you don't think you've mastered the draft, but in a way, do you kind of feel like an underrated plate racer? Because granted, the 500 was your first plate win, but you've always performed very well at Daytona and Talladega. So, you know, and even mentioning that Dale Jr. will probably be the car to beat, do you still think, you know, hey, maybe I should be included in these conversations at Daytona and Talladega?
I just still need to continue to do my job to be better, and you can't be complacent even if you've won a race. And Dale Jr. has the win quantity, and that's what I'm referring to when he's like our favorite, or the favorite going into the weekend. And things he does on the track, those are, if I'm watching video, I'm watching the 88 car to learn how to do different things. And you know, my statistics have been good. They've been consistent. I've been lucky in many situations to have avoided the big one, and that's helped me develop those good average finishes. And so we look forward to coming to restrictor plate races at Stewart Haas. Tony Gibson is a good crew chief for the restrictor plates, and I'm happy to have him on my side, and I want to go out there and do the job to deliver for him and the team.
Any additional questions for our reigning Daytona 500 champion? Caleb?
Caleb Whistler, Speedway Digest. With 10 different winners and the potential to have more different winners this season, how important is it for you to stay in that top 10 to use those playoff points you've accumulated during the regular season and into the playoffs?
Yeah, there's two parts to your question. There could be more than 16 winners, and then it gets into who's higher in points, like you're saying. And then there's more wins or more stage victories to carry those points through the playoffs. And so I look at it, we're ahead of Newman, we're ahead of Dillon, we're ahead of Stenhouse. We're right there with Blaney, who won Pocono a few weeks ago. And if we end up with more than 16 winners, then you're in that pool racing the guys that have the one win. But then our job ultimately is to win the championship. And so we don't need to be looking at what it takes to just get into the playoffs. We need to be accumulating those bonus points that stay with you through the chase, and so, or through the playoffs. And so right now, a guy like Truex, he can just sit there and almost lollygag all the way to Homestead with as many playoff points as he's accumulated. Kyle Larson can almost do the same thing. Or whoever has those bonus points, they can just kind of cruise in a small way through some of the rounds of the playoffs. So we'll see how it all plays out. We know that we need to accumulate more bonus points to be competitive and to be one of those Final Four at Homestead.
Well, Kurt, we're pretty sure you're not going to be lollygagging on Saturday night during the Coke 0400. Good luck on trying to pull off the sweep.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, we are going to continue with our media availabilities for this weekend's Coke 0400 powered by Coca-Cola. We are joined by Chase Elliott, driver of the number 24 NAPA Auto Parts Patriotic Chevrolet. Chase, we have a lot to talk about here today. This week, the big announcement came out on Tuesday that you and Hendrick Motorsports agreed to a 4-year contract extension to keep you in the 24 through the 2022 season. Additionally, your number 24 car will be sporting a red, white, and blue paint scheme featuring stars and stripes, and the scheme will help to kick off NAPA's Get Back and Give Back effort while boosting awareness for the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund. And on top of all that, you'll be wearing a pair of Support Our Troops camouflage racing shoes this weekend, and proceeds from an auction for those will be donated to the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund. Why don't you take us through what it felt like to sign that contract extension, and then talk about what it means to be sporting that paint scheme and shoes this weekend?
Yeah, it's definitely been an exciting week for sure. Thankful for the opportunity and the chance to stay at Hendrick Motorsports for another 5.5 years. I'm really excited about it, and something that I've been wanting to share with y'all for a couple weeks since we got it done, and it's been just an honor to work with the men and women that make Hendrick Motorsports go around every day. And as I've told everyone in here before, and as the majority of y'all know that have covered racing for any period of time, I owe so much to Mr. Hendrick and what he's done for me, and really just kind of believing in me from the time I met him for some reason, and still does, and has continued to prove that as time's gone along. So I owe an awful lot to him, not just for the opportunities he's given me, but just for the faith he's had in me over the years. When even when people don't, nobody else does, he does, and he's made that aware, very apparent for everybody else to see. So that means a lot to me. For anybody, you don't see people like that in this world very often these days that are willing to go out of their way to help you. And he's one of those guys, and very lucky to have him on my team to do that. As far as this weekend goes, though, we are supporting a special paint scheme. NAPA has been a supporter of the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund for a number of years. I've been with NAPA for a few years now, and we've done this paint scheme each year. And the Intrepid Fallen Heroes Fund supports veterans with PTSD and brain injury. And NAPA has donated a lot of money, I think over $7 million with them over the course of their support with that fund. So it's been a great partnership with them, and it's a great opportunity for us to show that support, and a great place to do it here at Daytona.
Great. We'll open up to questions. We'll start up here up front with Claire, and then go to Jerry and Kelly.
Claire Beelang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Everybody's, happy for your contract, but nobody's really surprised. We figured you would stay at Hendrick. Did you talk to other people? And even though you're very settled and will race the same way, does it do anything to you internally to have signed that will make it easier on you?
I don't really know that it really changes how I go about my job. I mean, I think if the length of a contract changes how you go about your job, then you're in the wrong sport, So I feel very, very passionate about that. I mean, I think you have to bring the same amount of intensity and drive each weekend, whether your contract is good for 10 years or this is your last race. I think that's kind of how you need to go about it in anything that you do. So I don't want, I'm not changing how I race or how well I want to do. We want to win and run well more than anybody else around wants us to or think they want us to. So we certainly are very driven to want to continue to do well regardless about that.
Did you talk to anyone else, or were you pretty much focused on staying?
No, we haven't. Mr. Hendrick is, like I said a second ago, I mean, he's been so good to me. Why would you? I mean, really, at the end of the day, I mean, a guy that's been so consistent and has stood by his word since day one. I mean, that in itself, I mean, is enough to stay true to him. So I haven't had any interest and don't. And like I said, very happy to be where I am, and what a great opportunity to be able to stay there for 5.5 more years. I think it's great, and just happy to be affiliated with the people that are there, and especially him.
Go to Jerry, Kelly, and then Holly.
Jerry Jordan, KickingTheTires.net and PRN. Looking ahead to Bristol, can you talk about what that track means to you from a standpoint as being important on the circuit? And secondly, your average finish there in 3 starts, I believe, is 8th. So address your performance there as well.
Yeah, I like Bristol. The Bristol night race is one of the coolest races of the year for sure. It's a race that I've always enjoyed watching on TV as a fan. I mean, it was always one of my favorite races to go to and watch. So I think just because of that, it's special to me. So I certainly want to run well there. We had a really good run there the spring race of last year, and went back in the fall and just weren't really as fast. Didn't quite have it, and kind of struggled with some of the same things this past spring. So hopefully we can kind of get back to what we found there the spring race of 2016. It's a long time ago, I know, but I think it's still the same Bristol, and the same tendencies you fight are going to be there regardless of the year or the rules package of that week. So it just kind of focus on what you have to do well there, and run the top and trying to make the bottom work on restarts, and just some of the same things that Bristol's known for nowadays.
Kelly Crandall, Racer.com. Chase, it wasn't that long ago that you're kind of wondering what you had to do to turn the season around. You come in here off of 4 straight top 8 finishes. So are things now trending in the right direction? Have you guys hit on something, or is it just simple as staying out of the carnage, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I really can't say we've done anything different over the past few weeks. Preparation-wise, leading into the races, at track, during practice, I mean, our approach really hasn't changed. I think we just haven't run over random pieces of debris on lap 20 of a 600-mile race, and just luckily haven't had the stupid things happen that did throughout the month of May. So, I think we had some fast cars throughout that month. Obviously, just never really had anything to show for it results-wise. So it really, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you do or not when you have days like that. But no, we haven't changed anything that we're doing effort-wise, preparation-wise. It's just I think our execution of races over the past few weeks, that would be the only thing, in my opinion, that has been better. I think we've done a much better job executing races from a strategy standpoint, from a pit road standpoint, from my end, even when we don't have cars that are winning cars, that day. Like, last week I look at our effort at Sonoma, and I wrecked on Friday in practice, put everything behind, went to a car that was pretty old in the shop, and qualified pretty good, got in the race, and really struggled to start. Our strategy was great. Our pit stops were awesome. We were able to stay out of trouble and got a top 10 out of a day that probably wasn't going to be one. And kind of the same with Michigan. I don't know that we were a second-place car, but the execution on pit road, we had the fastest pit stop of the day, and just seems like things like that, can make a mediocre, just a mediocre day pretty good. And those are the kind of things you have to do to compete in this deal.
We'll go to Holly, Jean, Mike, and then Jordan.
Holly K, NASCAR.com. Hey, Chase. I just wanted to ask you, obviously you've started on the pole here a couple of times, but I know the Daytona 500 this year was just gut-wrenching for you. Could you just kind of talk about your feelings? Do you feel like you've learned a lot and you expect the race to go a little differently? Or how do you feel when you roll up here in Daytona?
Yeah, I feel really good about our Super Speedway program. It's been, I feel like it's been improving since I've started racing. I mean, I think we were able to sit on the pole in 2016 and this past February, but I really felt like our race this past February down here, just the execution of the duels, the whole 500 race, I mean, all of that went really, really well. We ran better throughout the whole course of the race in this past 500 than we did in 2016. Which didn't make it very far in 2016. But regardless, I think our car was more suited to run well in the race this past year. and I think that noticed. I think I noticed that, and I think it showed up. You know, it was pretty apparent when the race started. I felt like our car kind of had the same ability and the same tendencies at Talladega this year. Didn't go very good either, but I thought our car was pretty fast and was able to do things that I, would like to see of our race car once the race starts, and kind of be that guy, as I talk about. When you're plate racing, you want to be the guy that everybody wants to work with and wants to push and help. And if that's the case, then opportunities are going to be there that wouldn't typically be if you were a little slower or couldn't make a lane move forward. So when you get in there, it's really hard to see that in practice and see who is going to be that person, or who are, what cars are going to be those cars you want to work with. But when the race starts, it becomes very apparent who the players are, who's really good, and it seems like people are, just magically a little more interested in helping you and being with you when that's the case. So that's our goal. Just middle of the road. I mean, as I've said before, we do it 4 times a year, and the points pay the same at all of them, just like they do every other track. So the way I see it is, you either accept it and make the most of those races. There's guys who have accepted it and have won a lot of them over the past 3 or 4 years. So I think you want to be in that boat than against.
Go to Gene.
Chase, Gene Fournette from the Times Union in Jacksonville. If you can't win this race Saturday night, and given the sentimentality for Dale Jr., do you think each driver would, if they can't win, would want to see Dale win, even over a teammate, because of the circumstances of this race?
Well, I mean, he's a teammate, a great friend, but I certainly want to outrun him. I mean, I'm not going to feel bad about outrunning somebody, for sure, if you can do it. So, I'm sure there's a lot of fans and a lot of people that would love to see it, but as a racer, I think it's hard to pull for anybody else, during the race. I think he'd say the same thing about me or anybody else. So like I said, it's definitely a big day here at Daytona, sure. I mean, the Earnhardts have had a lot of success here at the Speedway. Dale Sr. and Dale Jr. both won a lot of races down here, and his last race at Daytona is a big deal. But I can't say I'm, would like him to win over me by any means. I would rather outrun him, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that would like to see him do well. Sure, I'd be happy for him if he were to go and win the race. I'm not going to be upset about that, if that's what you're asking. But no, I think if that happens, there'll be a lot of happy people, and I'll be happy for him if that's the case, but I'd rather it be us.
We'll go to Mike Embry, Jordan, and then we'll wrap up with Zach.
Mike Embry, USA Today. Chase, what has your relationship with Junior been like at Hendrick, and how has your opinion or perspective on him changed since you've been working with him so closely, or has it?
I can't say it's really changed. I mean, he's been a good friend and a good teammate. To me, he's a hard competitor, and that's very apparent. He wants to do well. He's very driven, and he gets tied in with what's going on at the racetrack, and he spends a lot of time focused on that, and he puts in his time and effort to run well, and as everyone wants to do. So, my opinion of him, he's a hard competitor, a good friend, a great teammate. He's a guy that has been offering help and lending a hand to our race team at times, certainly when we've asked for it. Has always been an open book, and I think from a teammate's perspective, I don't know what else more you could ask for. So that's about it.
Jordan Bianchi, SB Nation. Chase, you kind of answered this a little bit, but hypothetically, you're second to Dale on the last lap. What's your approach? What are you thinking?
I'm just hoping you have the right push to get around him. I mean, this deal is. No hesitation or anything to pass him? Oh, absolutely not. No, I wouldn't think twice about it if I had an opportunity to pass him. I wouldn't let anybody win. Would you?
All right, we'll wrap up with Zach in the front.
Zach Dean, Daytona Beach News Journal. Speaking about Bubba Wallace a little bit, he's hopping back into the 43 car this weekend. You kind of did that last year, hopping into an iconic car, going into the 24. Have you given him any advice, or if you haven't, what would you tell him about how to handle that situation?
I haven't talked to him a whole lot about it, other than just happy for him that he has a chance to go and run. It was kind of bittersweet. He got his first Cup opportunity the same week they shut down his Xfinity team, which was a bummer in a lot of ways, but an opportunity for him to go and race on the Cup side. So I think he's done a good job. I'm sure he's learned a lot over the course of the few races he's run. That 43 car is always fast down here, so I don't see why it'd be any different with him. So the racing, the drafting is certainly different from the Cup side versus what it is in the Xfinity cars, and I'm sure he'll see that very, very quickly. And I think he's a guy who's been doing this long enough where he'll pick up on it. And I wouldn't be surprised if he was a contender Saturday night.
All right, Chase. Well, congratulations on the contract extension. Good luck on Saturday.
Thanks.